Let's break those numbers down now with Joseph Busha of JM Busha Investment, who joins us now. Mr. Busha, many thanks for your time this afternoon. Let's start with that overall markets picture that we saw today. Some strong movements in early afternoon trade, but I see we ended off the day just under 0.5% in the green. Talk us through some of those major catalysts.
No, certainly. I think the market has been really on the upward mend in terms of just recovery. Remember, we reached a high and then came down to about 72,000 level for the index. But I think there's a lot of positive that has been coming through. We've seen MTN running very well over the last 2 days. I think given their updates and their intention in Nigeria to start a bank, given the growth in their market there. Certainly, if you look in terms of why the market might just be a little bit jittery, a little bit more volatility is purely because of uncertainty in terms of inflation figures around the world and interest rates going up. In the UK, inflation is sitting at about 5.4, the US 7, and here just about 5.2. And I think, that has really just been unnerving investors as to where the market would be going. We saw some numbers coming down. Anglo Gold saying profits might plunge 42 or 43% down. So those indications certainly might just introduce volatility, but there's lots of support, in the market. We saw some of the resources, Exxaro, Kumba, all up between 3 and 4%.
Now, absolutely. And I want to get into some company updates that were released today, Mr. Busha. But before we do that, we have to reflect on this oil price. We're seeing it at record highs once again, numbers we haven't seen in about 7 years, if I'm not mistaken. This is a dire story for the South African consumer when it comes to fuel price hikes, especially when we've got the volatile rand.
Dire straits indeed. Remember, fuel price or crude prices were up about $140 per barrel some years ago, 8-9 years ago, and came down to about 20. Now, all of a sudden, we are up above 80 once again, and this will certainly put pressure on SA consumers, in particular in the transport sector, energy sector. Once fuel goes up, certainly there's a problem. We also saw the Eskom CEO talking about, having to rely on fuel to be able to pump and keep our lights up, which certainly, just increases demand and increases the prices of energies in SA. Yep. So petrol going up 63 and diesel, I think about 101 rand or 101 cents. So certainly it's not good for consumers. Pick and Pay CEO also coming up that these things is going to affect prices and consumers will feel the burden.
No, absolutely. We've run out of time, Mr. Busha, but I have to ask you about Denel. Those bonds have been suspended from the JSE. I mean, it's a state-owned entity that's been struggling for quite a while, but now the bondholders are going to be suffering quite a bit. Just explain to us what that means for someone who's holding Denel bonds.
Well, it means basically they won't be getting any interest payment if there's any interest payment, or any capital redemption if they were due to be paid. And I think this is really just because of the status the SOE is in, and really mentioned hugely in the Zondo Commission in terms of corruption as well. So this is not really good for our state-owned entities and for the investors who are holding those assets.
No, absolutely. Very interesting insights there, as always. Joseph Busha of JM Busha Investments.